The arena pulsed with energy, a vibrant sea of faces illuminated by flashing lights and the roaring applause of thousands. George Strait stood at center stage, guitar in hand and heart racing from the familiar thrill of performing. Yet despite the cheers reverberating around him, a profound disconnect gnawed at his insides, as though a veil separated him from the very people who sang along to every lyric. Their joy echoed in the air, palpable and electric, yet he felt detached, like a ghost wandering through the memories of his own life. As the last notes of his classic hit drifted into the night, George offered a practiced smile, taking a moment to let the applause wash over him. But the exhilaration felt hollow. This was the life he had dreamed of, sold-out shows, adoring fans. But it felt like a game he could no longer play. After the curtain dropped, he slipped backstage, still caught in the undertow of emotion. The damp alley near the stage, quiet and dim, beckoned him, a solace buried amidst the noise. He leaned against the cool brick wall, allowing the dark to envelop him like an old coat. Each breath weighed heavy, filled with memories too painful to grasp. He thought of Buddy, the loyal dog who had been his constant companion, the warm presence that had filled his home with laughter and love. Losing him had left a void so vast that no accolades or adoration could penetrate it. George ran a hand over his weary face, feeling the exhaustion settle into his bones, a physical manifestation of his grief. Just as he began to succumb to the shadows of despair, a soft sound pierced the silence, a howl, raw and unfiltered, drifting through the alley like a call to the wild. Turned toward the sound, George's gaze fell upon a small, scruffy dog huddled in the corner, eyes gleaming with a spark of defiance. The dog's howl had an uncanny resonance, echoing his own sorrow, like a forgotten song caught in a loop. "Hey there," George murmured, kneeling down, the gritty gravel pressing into his knees. He extended a cautious hand, his heart racing in rhythm to the unexpected connection. The stray's ears perked up, curiosity overtaking caution as she stepped closer, the moonlight framing her delicate features. In that moment, a tide of emotions rose within him, a mix of hope and heartache. "Looks like you're a bit lost too, huh?" George said softly. He felt an inexplicable warmth rising from her scruffy fur, a fleeting bond forming between them in that lonely alleyway. It was a respite from the void that had become his constant companion. As he stroked her head gently, he couldn't help but feel a longing for the carefree joy he had once shared with Buddy. Moments filled with laughter, warmth, and unwavering love. Bella, as he would later name her, leaned into his touch, her eyes glistening with unspoken understanding. For the first time in a long while, George felt a stir of emotion beneath the layer of grief he had encased himself in. Here was a creature, abandoned and searching, mirroring his own hidden despair. He wondered if she could help guide him back to the light that had once illuminated his path. Sitting there, the world outside blurred into a gentle hum. He thought of the life lessons steeped in heartache, the chance to rediscover harmony amidst the howls of loss. "I don't know where this will lead us," he whispered, light trembling against the moonlight, "but let's figure it out together." As the streetlight flickered above them, casting an ethereal glow, George felt a stirring realization. The first sparks of hope flickered in the darkness. With Bella beside him, he sensed the possibility of regaining a melody he had thought lost forever, a chance to start anew. The night, once enveloped in solitude, began to awaken with uncharted promise, awaiting the notes of a song yet to be written. Days turned into weeks, and Bella became a constant presence in George's life. The stray, with her unyielding spirit and affectionate nudges, spent her nights curled at the foot of his bed, and her days bouncing alongside him as he navigated the quiet moments of life. But beneath the surface of this newfound companionship, memories began to surface, fragments of his past that tugged at the strings of his heart like a well-loved song. One morning, while sipping coffee on the porch of his modest Texas home, he closed his eyes and found himself transported back to his childhood. The familiar scent of freshly brewed coffee mingled with the warm Texas sun, filling the space with an aroma that whispered of laughter and love. The porch was where dreams were born, a place where he and Buddy would sit for hours, George strumming his guitar while the dog lay lazily at his feet, oblivious to the troubles of the world. "Remember that time you chased the truck?" George chuckled, the gentle breeze encouraging his reminiscing. He could see Buddy, tail wagging fiercely, darting after the family pickup as if it were the biggest adventure of his young life. The dog had been more than a pet. He was a confidant, a companion to share secrets with. George's heart tightened as he recalled the warmth of summer evenings spent with Marta and Tommy, his childhood friends. The trio would gather in the grassy fields, laughter mingling with the sounds of crickets and strumming guitars. Their dreams seemed so vivid back then, so real, as they spoke of conquering the world with their music. "Come on, George, play that new tune for us." Marta's voice rang out, a blend of challenge and encouragement. Tommy sat cross-legged, guitar resting on his knee, eager to strum along. They were bound by youthful ambition, their shared experiences weaving a tapestry of love and connection. Shaking off the nostalgia like a stubborn cobweb, George's eyes snapped open. This was the life he had once cherished, a world where music flowed freely, and friends were the family you chose. Fame had come at a price, shrouding those tender memories beneath layers of success and sorrow. The bright lights of his career had illuminated many paths, yet at times overshadowed the simple joys rooted in his past. "Hey, Bella," he called gently, pulling her close. The dog nudged his leg, her tail wagging with unconditional love. Her cheerful presence was a reminder of the bonds he had once held dear. "I think it's time we took a trip." With a flicker of excitement, he grabbed his old guitar, a weathered instrument, its wood warm and familiar in his hands. As he strummed a few chords, Bella listened attentively, her head cocked to one side. They stepped out into the bright afternoon sun, embarking on a journey back to the house where his roots ran deep. The drive was filled with memories, the landscape of Texas unfolding like a well-loved book. Golden fields stretched out beside the road, dotted with wildflowers dancing in the wind. His heart swelled with longing and nostalgia as he passed familiar landmarks, the small diner where he used to play open mic nights, the rundown barn that had been home to countless jam sessions, and the sprawling fields where he and Buddy had run wild. Finally, as the sun dipped towards the horizon, casting the sky in hues of orange and pink, he pulled into the driveway of his childhood home. The old ranch-style house looked just as he remembered, worn but standing strong. With Bella at his side, he stepped out of the truck, the crunch of gravel beneath his boots resonating like a heartbeat. As he approached the porch, memories rushed back, enveloping him like an old friend. He could envision the laughter of his family, his mother serving dinner while his father strummed a tune on the front porch. He could hear the echoes that filled the air on warm summer nights, the sound of his sisters giggling and the clinking of dishes. It felt like a lifetime ago, but the love of that time still clung to him like the warmth of the sun. Sitting down on the wooden steps, memories unfolded like a song, reminding him of the dreams that once danced in the air above him. He took a deep breath, allowing the familiar sense of home to wash over him, sagebrush and fresh-cut grass, the essence of a life once embraced. It was in this sacred place that George began to rediscover the joy he thought he had lost to the world of fame. "Let's write a song," he said, looking at Bella, who settled beside him, her eyes shimmering with understanding. "A song about the past, the roots, and the love that brought me here." With his guitar resting on his knee, George began to play softly, the notes spilling out like sunlight through the trees. The melody painted a portrait of his childhood, an ode to the laughter, the love, and even the loss. Bella listened, her presence a gentle reminder that the path forward often requires a return to where it all began. As he played, the evening sun sank lower, casting a golden glow over the place that cradled his heart. This moment was not just an escape, it was the beginning of a new understanding. Music flowed through him once again, a thread that connected not only his past with his present, but also reminded him that the harmony he sought could be rediscovered in the simplest of memories. George felt a stirring within, an emergence of joy that hinted at healing, a realization that home was not merely a place, but a feeling that resided as much in his heart as in the melodies he had always cherished. And with Bella at his side, he was ready to embrace the journey ahead, one note at a time. As autumn settled over Texas, the days grew shorter, and George found himself grappling with an unsettling sense of longing. Though Bella brightened his days with her playful spirit, the shadows of doubt lingered, threatening to eclipse the joy he had begun to feel. Despite the love of his dog, the vastness of his loneliness in the midst of his success grew heavier. On the road for his latest tour, George's performances transformed from exhilarating to draining. The thrill of the crowd erupted with applause, yet backstage he could feel an overwhelming emptiness, as if he were simply wearing a mask. Each night he played to thousands, But the connection he once felt with his music seemed to slip through his fingers like grains of sand. Instead of leaving the stage feeling euphoric, he departed with a growing sense of isolation. Before one show, George paced in his dressing room, strumming his guitar with absent chords. The familiar backstage buzz, once a comfort, now felt sterile. Marta, his longtime friend and manager, peeked in. "George," she said softly, concern coloring her tone. "This isn't you. Are you okay?" He forced a smile, trying to push down the tide of doubt. "Just a little tired, I guess." Marta crossed her arms, her expression stern yet caring. "You've been fine for weeks, and this doesn't feel right. What's really going on?" George sighed, the weight of unexpressed emotions hanging between them. "I don't know, Marta. I feel lost. The music that used to speak to me, at times it feels like I'm just going through the motions." Her gaze softened as she stepped closer. "You're not alone in this. Talk to me, to Tommy. We're a team, remember?" With a nod, he let her words sink in. Recently, he'd felt the separation not just from himself, but from his bandmates too. Tommy, his loyal guitarist, had drifted into his own silence, weighed down by unspoken burdens. "Let's talk after the show," George finally said, steeling himself as the stage lights cast their glow. He took a breath, stepping on stage, and sang. The applause another reminder of the disconnection he felt. Yet, despite the crowd's adoration, logs of sorrow still burned within him. After the performance ended, and the last echoes faded, George met Marta and Tommy outside the venue beneath the starlit sky. The cool air felt refreshing yet charged with anticipation. "Let's talk," Marta urged, her voice steady. "We can't keep pretending everything's fine." As they settled on the ground, George spoke from his heart, words flowing about the feelings of sadness that had become festering wounds. He navigated the landscape of his grief over Buddy, not just the loss itself, but the impact it had on him as an artist, as a friend. "There's a gaping hole in my life, and the music isn't as fulfilling anymore," he admitted, vulnerability coloring his voice. Tommy nodded, pain reflecting in his expression. "I thought I was the only one struggling. Every show has felt like a chore lately. I thought fame would change everything, but now I just feel empty." Marta's hand rested on George's shoulder, offering solace. "It's okay to feel vulnerable. We can lean on each other. The music, it needs to feel real again. When was the last time we shared our inspirations with one another?" George and Tommy exchanged glances, the tension lightening a little. "You're right," George replied. "We haven't been ourselves in a long while, have we?" With that acknowledgement, they became a coalition of understanding, three hearts growing more intertwined as they faced the depths of their struggles together. They committed to rediscovering the joy of making music, not just for the crowds, but for one another and themselves. As they sat back under the stars, a shared sense of purpose began to flicker within them. Healing would take time, yet their connections with each other provided a beacon of hope. George felt a fragile spark igniting in his heart, a glimmer promising that the path to renewal was within reach. Days turned into weeks, and slowly, as they shared stories of their pasts and poured their truths into song, a vibrant energy began to revitalize George's spirit. Inspired by his childhood, the warmth of that porch and the truth in each note brought forth a bond deeper than he had thought possible. With Bella alongside him on stage again, George's music began to stir with authenticity. Each chord resonated with the essence of human connection, a celebration of their collective journeys, losses, and the love that knotted their hearts together. The road ahead was still uncertain, but now he had companions willing to share the burdens, bringing him back to life. They were a family who could help heal one another, one note at a time. The rhythm of life began to change for George Strait and his companions. Each day melded into another, yet within this routine there was a spirited determination that ignited his soul. Rehearsals shifted from mere work to soulful exchanges, where sharing became a cathartic release, flowing like a river that had broken free from winter's grip. George spent countless evenings with Tommy and Marta in the dim light of their studio, an aged yet inviting space filled with memories woven into the very walls. The guitar strings vibrated beneath George's fingers, joined harmoniously by the accompanying melodies spun by Tommy's electric guitar. Marta infused a fresh energy into the lyrics, her voice a beacon guiding them toward the truth they sought. One particular night, the atmosphere was electric with anticipation as they huddled together, amidst the rich aroma of coffee steaming from mugs. George leaned back, observing his friends. "You know, I've been thinking about how much music has been a part of us since we were kids," he began, memories dancing in his mind. "It feels like we've only just begun to explore what we can create together." Tommy plucked a few chords, listening intently. "Yeah, but it's not just about the music anymore. It's about what we've lived through. The stories we hold, they matter." Marta interjected, excitement stirring in her voice. "Let's tell those stories. Let's write songs that echo our journeys, the struggles, the love, the loss. We've walked through the darkness, and now we're here, together." That's something worth singing about. As George observed the passion radiating from Marta and Tommy, he felt a swell of gratitude for their presence. Each of them had faced their own battles, but together they formed a mosaic of resilience. "You're right," he said, his voice steady. "We'll draw from our lives." Their rehearsals transformed as they began weaving personal experiences into their music. George penned lyrics that explored the heartache of losing Buddy, the innocence of those carefree childhood days, and the loneliness that had often shadowed him during fame. He channeled the depth of his emotions into the songs, crafting a heartbeat that pulsed through the melodies. The studio reverberated with a mix of laughter, tears, and the occasional grittiness that came with vulnerability. One night, while the trio immersed themselves in a new song, George's fingers danced over the frets, evoking a nostalgic and bittersweet tune. His voice cracked as he sang the opening lines. "In the fields where laughter thrived, I chased the sunset with a friend by my side." The words hung in the air, laced with emotion. Marta glanced at him, her eyes glistening. "That's beautiful, George. You're capturing the essence of what we've been through." "Yeah, it feels raw and true," Tommy added, enthusiasm overtaking him. "Let's take this more personal. It'll resonate." The song evolved, becoming a tapestry of their struggles and triumphs, excitement and grief, all woven through the cracks of their experiences. With every passing week, they continued to build this emotional sanctuary. They shared stories that flowed like rivers, and with each note, they sculpted their rebirth as musicians, each strum shattering the loneliness that had once engulfed them. As fall turned to winter, the chill crept into their lives, bringing forth an opportunity for reflection. From the sparse warmth of a fire pit on inputs brings collective comfort as they revisited their old dreams. "You know," George mused one evening, leaning back on the cold metal of a folding chair, "I thought success meant happiness. I found the fame, but the more I achieved, the more I lost touch with myself and why I fell in love with music." Tommy nodded knowingly, the flickering flame casting shadows across his face. "Me too. The industry can be suffocating. If we don't stay grounded, we'll lose our way. Part of our rebirth is remembering why we're doing this in the first place," Marta said. "We need to keep searching for those authentic moments, even in the chaos." With renewed energy, the trio poured their heart and soul into writing and rehearsing, celebrating the fleeting beauty of each sunset as a symbol of growth and transformation. They began incorporating anecdotes into their performances, sharing snippets of their journeys amid crafted lyrics, allowing the audience to witness their evolution. As they performed together on stage that winter, the connection with their audience felt electric. They played in cozy venues, intimate gatherings where laughter intermingled with the sound of strings vibrating through the air. The heartfelt stories resonated, igniting something raw and genuine in the hearts of those who came to listen. "Playing these songs, it feels like we are giving life back into this music," George remarked one night after a performance, still buzzing with post-show adrenaline. "Absolutely," Tommy agreed, excitement bubbling over. "This connection we're building, it's the real thing. We're giving voice to what others feel." In the small moments, an elderly couple holding hands as they swayed, a child smiling up at the stage, couples whispering sweet nothings, George saw manifestations of their shared humanity. Their songs forged an emotional bridge, giving strangers a glimpse into the lives they had courageously faced. Yet amidst this beautiful unfolding, George felt the bittersweet pang of loss creeping in. One fateful morning, as he walked Bella through the fields, the sun glowed like a hearth, yet he sensed an undeniable void. Buddy's absence weighed heavily on him, that absence still lingering like a phantom presence. He knelt down, stroking Bella's head as they breathed in the crisp winter air. "You know, Buddy might be gone, but his spirit is still here," he spoke, the words each laced with tenderness. I just wish he were here to see me like this, to see how far I've come, to see how far we've come." Bella pressed closer, her warm body grounding him. In this moment, a necessary shift took place within him, a realization that even in sadness, there could be light, hope, and rebirth. "You were my friend, buddy," he murmured, looking up at the sky where the first stars twinkled. "And in the songs we're creating now, I'll carry you with me." As winter slowly yielded to spring, George felt renewed. With the warmth of the sun enlivening the world around him, it dawned a clearer purpose. He began channeling the past to forge a brighter future. Together with Marta and Tommy, they embraced the transformation. Their music was alive again, igniting a spark in their hearts, celebrating the myriad of stories that were all part of their journeys. They were emerging from the darkness and stepping into the light as a family bound by love, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of authenticity. The rebirth had begun. As spring unfurled its vibrant colors, life bloomed anew for George Strait and his companions. The air was fragrant with fresh earth and blossoming wildflowers, mirroring the revitalization in their music and spirits. This season felt different. There was an effervescence in the atmosphere that seemed to whisper promises of fresh beginnings. In the weeks that followed, George, Marta, and Tommy decided to record their new songs, each pulling from the wells of honesty and emotion they'd been cultivating. The studio transformed into a sanctuary, surrounded by soft lights and bursting with creativity. They pushed boundaries, laying down tracks that integrated country roots with hints of folk and rock, each sound pulsating with raw authenticity. One early afternoon, they gathered in the studio, sunlight spilling through the windows like golden ribbons. George leaned against the wall, his guitar in hand as he watched his friends work. Tommy tapped a rhythm on a box, while Marta spun melodies on the piano, her fingers gliding fluidly across the keys. It was a scene of collaborative joy, laughter weaving through their creativity. "I have this idea for a song," George announced, breaking the playful chatter. The room quieted as eyes turned towards him, curiosity sparking. "It's about moving forward, facing your fears, carrying memories, but not letting them weigh you down." Outcomes of their struggles still lingered in the air, and as the melody enveloped them, he began to strum softly, the notes combining into something heartwarming yet bittersweet. "It goes like this," he started to sing. "There's a road that stretches wide and far. It holds my dreams, it carries scars." Marta joined in, her voice harmonizing effortlessly with George's. Tommy picked up on the beat, shifting seamlessly, and soon they crafted a song that felt like a desired release, self-reflective yet hopeful. As they fell into the groove, the atmosphere transformed, each note allowing them to let go of some of their past while embracing the present. Hours slipped away unnoticed, and as the afternoon sun sank lower, they finally paused, panting with exhilaration. George leaned back in his chair, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment wash over him. "This is the beginning of something special," he said, heart racing. "It feels alive. It's not just music anymore. It's a reflection of all that we are," Marta added, her voice filled with conviction. "This is our story." With renewed energy, they committed to hitting the road once more, scheduling an intimate tour. Small venues where they could reconnect with fans, where laughter and vulnerability could mingle freely. They called the tour Road of Redemption, a theme that resonated with each of them, an embodiment of their journey from grief to hope. As the tour began, George felt the familiar mix of nerves and excitement as they stepped on stage for their first performance. The venue was cozy, filled with familiar faces and a few new ones. An electric atmosphere enveloped the space, underscored by the tenderness woven into their new songs. George glanced at Marta and Tommy, sharing a sense of unity before they kicked off the show. They opened with their new song, the notes soaring like birds taking flight, resonating with simplicity and depth. The audience fell silent, absorbing the raw emotion that poured from the stage as they sang about healing, renewal, and resilience. Midway through the performance, George paused, breathing in the moment. "You're not just listeners, you're part of this journey," he addressed the crowd, sincerity etched across his face. "We've all faced challenges, but music allows us to share those burdens. We stand here together tonight, celebrating the strength that unites us." As the words flowed, George looked out into the audience, where faces illuminated by soft light reflected gratitude, each person holding their stories in their hearts. There was an elderly couple swaying gently together, the laughter of children lighting up the room, and young couples leaning into each other, whispering their secrets, wrapped in the magic of the moment. With each song, the ties between them deepened, transforming a performance into a shared experience. As they ended the show with one final heartfelt number, cheers erupted and echoed throughout the venue, and George's heart surged with gratitude. "Thank you. Thank you for sharing this night with us. We couldn't do it without you," he exclaimed, hope resonating in his tone. As they stepped backstage, the energy crackled, an intimate thrill of accomplishment and renewed purpose settling around them like a warm embrace. "That felt incredible," Tommy shouted, his excitement infectious. "It was more than just performing," Marta added, her smile bright. "We connected in a way we haven't in years." Days turned to weeks, and with each stop they made on this tour, the music blossomed, revitalizing the spirit that had once dimmed. They formed bonds with fans who shared their stories, reminding George of the beauty that lay within vulnerability, how music could heal the scars of loss with threads of connection. One afternoon, after a particularly moving concert, George decided to take a moment for himself. Walking along a quiet country road, he found solitude under a wide Texas sky, painted in hues of orange and violet. The air felt warm against his skin, carrying whispers of nature's song. Pausing, he closed his eyes and took a deep breath, feeling the sun warm his face. "Look how far we've come, buddy," he murmured to the silence, thinking of Buddy and feeling a sense of peace. He could almost hear Buddy's voice urging him on, see the joy reflected in his eyes. "I hope you're proud." The world around him echoed with laughter, the wind brushing by like a soft hug. In that moment, with memories dancing in his mind, George felt a profound sense of clarity, a renewed commitment to embracing his journey. "This life, it's a gift," he said aloud, resolved to live it fully. As the season turned, their tour became more than just a series of performances. It morphed into a celebration of life itself. The ups, the downs, the connections that held the fabric of existence together. George and his friends had not only reclaimed their music, but they had also rediscovered the essence of friendship, love, and community that guided them through their rebirth. Their path was still unfolding, each new song a step toward a brighter tomorrow, every chord tethering them closer together, a new chapter filled with hope and melody, ready to serenade the world anew. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead, armed with the power of their shared experiences and the courage to embrace the unknown. The road of redemption stretched wide before them, alive with promise and possibility. As summer descended upon Texas, the warmth of the season mirrored the renewed passion igniting in George Strait and his bandmates. Their tour, now entering its third month, was marked by an ever-growing bond between them and the fans. Each show became an emotional exchange, a shared catharsis, where George poured his heart out and the audience reflected back every ounce of love and encouragement. However, just as the flowers bloomed, the shadows of doubt lurked in the corners of George's mind. Despite the accolades and applause, there were whispers that threatened to unravel the fabric they had worked so hard to stitch together. Moments of insecurity flickered beneath the surface, reminding him of the painful solitude that had once consumed him. One night, after a particularly electrifying performance in Austin, George stood backstage, heart racing with adrenaline. His bandmates celebrated their success, laughter filling the air, but George felt an unsettling void. The echoes of cheers morphed into a nagging chorus of self-doubt. Why did he still feel this way, even after all they had accomplished? Marta noticed the shift in his demeanor, her innate sense of empathy picking up on his unease. "George, you okay? You seem somewhere else," she asked gently, concern evident in her eyes. He forced a smile, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Yeah, I'm fine, just a little tired, I guess." Tommy, tuning his guitar nearby, chimed in. "You were on fire out there tonight. It felt real, man." "Yeah, it was," George replied, but doubt lingered, gnawing at the corners of his confidence. "But it's like, is this enough? We're gaining momentum, but what if it's just a fleeting moment?" Marta stepped closer, her voice steady and firm. "Listen, you've come too far to let fear take the wheel now. Remember why you started this journey. A love for music, connection, and healing. You're doing that every time you step out on stage." "Yeah," George exhaled slowly. "I guess I'm just scared of losing it all again. The fulfillment, the connection." That night, troubled dreams filled George's sleep. haunted by memories of loneliness and loss. He found himself on an endless stage with haunting echoes of silence, the absence of applause, an uncomfortable reminder of the void he feared would return. Awakening in a cold sweat, he understood that a deeper battle raged within him, one where he needed to confront the very fears that had once kept him from embracing the light. The following day was free of shows, allowing the band a rare chance to reflect and recharge. George gathered with Marta and Tommy in the crisp morning air, the sun just breaking over the horizon. Together, they decided to take a breather from the whirlwind of performing, opting instead for a day of exploring the beautiful Texas landscape. "Let's get away for a bit, maybe visit the hills or the river," George suggested, sensing the need for a reset. "Sounds like a plan," Tommy agreed, his face brightening. Marta nodded in enthusiastic agreement, her smile encouraging. They headed out, driving along winding country roads that stretched into the horizon, the landscape morphing from wide fields to jagged cliffs and quaint towns. They found a serene spot by the river's edge, where the whispering waters told stories of resilience and change. They settled under a sprawling tree, the shade providing a perfect refuge from the heat. As they sat in silence, the soothing sounds of nature echoed around them, gently coaxing George from his thoughts. "I've been feeling overwhelmed," George finally confessed, breaking the tranquil silence that enveloped them. "It's like I'm standing at the edge of something beautiful, but I can't shake the feeling that it could all disappear." Marta looked at him, her hand resting comfortingly on his arm. "It's okay to feel that way. We've all been there, but look at how far we've come, not only in our music, but as friends. None of this is temporary. What we've built together is real." Tommy lifted his head, a spark of determination brightening his eyes. "You know, we can't predict the future, but we can choose to embrace the journey and trust that our music will continue to evolve. It's about the moments we create now and the shared laughter we still have ahead of us." George took a deep breath, allowing their words to sink in. They were right. He needed to trust in their bond and the music they created together. He understood now that facing the fear did not mean it would go away, but rather recognizing it and choosing to move forward regardless. As they sat by the river, stories flowed from their hearts, memories of childhood, dreams deferred, laughter shared, and all that had shaped their lives. In that space beneath the old tree, they forged an unbreakable bond of understanding, igniting a newfound vigor in George that chased away the shadows that had clouded his spirit. That evening, they returned to the venue, ready to face their audience again. The show was filled with a sense of purpose and determination, their worries replaced by the joy of collective healing. As George took the stage, he felt lighter, surrounded by camaraderie and love, resonating with every note. "We're all in this together," he declared to the audience, his voice steady and sincere. "Music is a bond that carries us through. It's a celebration of our journeys. Every laugh, every tear, every moment matters." As the night unfolded, George poured his heart into their songs, eager to connect and uplift. The performance was electric, the chemistry on stage contagious. Each song became an anthem of resilience, echoing with the spirits of those who had once walked with weights upon their hearts, urging them to break free. As they concluded the set, the audience erupted in applause, filling the void with cheers that rang like music through the air. With each clap, they reaffirmed the connection they had built together, a community bound by music and vulnerability. After the show, as George celebrated with his friends backstage, he felt a profound sense of belonging. All the insecurities that had hovered above him began to fade, replaced by an understanding that it didn't matter what the future held. What mattered was the present, embracing the beauty of vulnerability, the power of friendship, and the magic of their music. Together they had passed through the shadows into the light, emerging closer and stronger than ever before. As they moved forward on their journey, George knew that each step would be filled with love and laughter, facing challenges with courage, and embracing the moments that made the journey worthwhile. The music would continue to guide them, a testament to resilience woven into the fabric of their lives. As autumn enveloped Texas, the annual Harvest Festival in Fredericksburg buzzed with excitement. The trio of George, Marta, and Tommy decided it was the perfect finale for their Road of Redemption tour, a celebration of community, music, and gratitude. The festival promised to be a heartfelt gathering where they could reflect on their journey. On the day of the festival, the air felt crisp with the promise of change. Vendors set up stalls filled with local produce and handmade crafts. George ambled through the vibrant atmosphere, feeling a surge of belonging among the cheerful families and laughter of children. "As I look around," George said, glancing at his friends, "it feels incredible to be here, to celebrate everything we've accomplished together." Marta beamed. "We've come full circle. Every challenge we faced has led us to this moment." Tommy, with his guitar slung over his shoulder, offered a nod. "Tonight's going to be special." As sundown approached, George stood quietly beneath a massive oak tree, the faded sunlight casting long shadows. Taking a deep breath, he reflected on how far he had come, enveloped by emotions both joyful and bittersweet. "Everything seems perfect," he murmured to the gentle breeze. "Hey, you okay?" Marta approached with concern in her voice. "Yeah, just thinking about how far we've come," he replied, a hint of vulnerability surfacing. "Sometimes it feels surreal." As darkness settled in and the stage lights flickered on, the crowd erupted with energy, a sea of eager faces ready to connect. Standing in front of the audience, George felt that familiar mix of excitement and intention. "We're all here together," he called out, his voice resolute. "Let's celebrate the journey that brought us here." The trio dived into their set, infusing the air with uplifting melodies and heartfelt lyrics. Each song resonated with shared experiences, stories of love and healing intertwining through the music. The audience swayed, connected not just to the performers, but to one another and the vibrant community around them. Mid-performance, George glanced out at the crowd, where he noticed a couple sharing a tender moment, their faces illuminated with emotion. Suddenly, the importance of connection struck him anew. This music was a testament to resilience, a reminder that they weren't alone in their struggles. As they began their final song, George felt the culmination of their journey, the melodies swirling together, carrying a message of hope. The joyous sound filled the night, allowing the audience to lose themselves in the moment. Once the final note rang out, applause thundered through the venue, a swell of approval and affection that blended together as a communal hug. Afterward, amidst laughter and celebration backstage, George basked in the joy of belonging. The insecurities that once shadowed him ebbed away, replaced by the certainty that the bonds they had formed were unbreakable. "This journey is bigger than us," George reflected, looking at Marta and Tommy. "It's about the connections we've made and the lives we've touched." Marta nodded, a knowing smile on her lips. "And this is just the beginning. The legacy we create with our music will continue." As stars twinkled above, they shared stories by the flickering fire, united in their hopes for the future. George realized that while their tour may have reached its end, their journey of creating music would persist. Determined to carry the essence of what they built, friendship, love, and healing, George envisioned a future filled with new songs, expressing both the joys and trials of life. The legacy of their journey would transform, guiding others towards finding their voices, uniting the community through the shared experience of music. Although the stage lights would dim that night, George felt a flame igniting within, a flame of purpose to continue sharing their message, no matter where the road would lead. As they looked towards the future, they danced in the warmth of understanding that every note would resonate, binding them together and celebrating the essence of life itself.